Thank you very much, Patrick, for the introduction. I am personally extremely happy to have the opportunity to present our recent work together with Cédric Herzé, who is apparently here today with us. As you say, the idea of this work is to propose a set of practical methods, so practical tests, to identify zero in the solution of the slope problem whenever it contains a lot of zero in the solution. So I will provide more detail about it in a few minutes. So just in case, I have prepared some slides about the context, but since we're talking about the slope problem for 2 hours now, I think I will be quick on this one. I will just take the opportunity to just introduce my notations because they are a bit different from the previous talk. So here, the observation I am interested in reconstructing will be written y, so it will be a vector of size m. And the optimization variable, which is of size n here, small n, will be denoted x, and the matrix that I will use to do the fit will be written so bold M, so big M. And the idea is to find, by solving some optimization problem, a vector x that minimizes some loss functions that measure the discrepancy between the observation and x. So since in the context we are interested in, meaning that more columns in M than rows, the problem is ill-posed and there are infinitely many solutions. A common strategy is to consider an additional additive penalty term, so a regularization term that promotes desirable properties. So here that I will be interested in a regularization that promotes sparsity without being detrimental to the design of efficient and fast algorithms. So here come the slope problem. So again, I will be a bit fast on this slide. So here, my notation, which are again different, are as follows. So when I want to evaluate the slope regularization in X, it is defined as the sum of the weight sorted entries of X in absolute value, and the weight will be denoted gamma, so gamma 1 until gamma n, and I assume that gamma 1 is the largest one and larger than gamma 2 and so on and so on. Okay, and I will use the bracket notation to refer to the sorted entry. So when I will write x in absolute value bracket k, it means that I am referring to the k largest entry of a vector. So, okay. During all the presentation, I will assume that the entries are sorted. And as we have seen previously in the seminar, in the conference, it is a norm under some assumption. Okay. So as in the previous talk, I will be interested in solving what I will denote the slope problem, meaning that I want to minimize the L2 norm between the reconstruction and the slope regularizer. So at this stage, I also want to mention that I will assume throughout the presentation that the columns of M are unit norm. So the norm of each column is 1. So it will easier the exposition and simplify let's say the results. However, this can be done without not loss of generality, and it is not that difficult to extend the result. Okay. So as we have seen previously in the conference, this problem has many desirable, enjoyable statistical properties, so I will not insist on it. The only thing I want to emphasize here is that I will be interested in slope problems for which the solution is known to be sparse, so is known to contain many zeros. So here I will assume that X star, the solution of the optimization problem, contains a lot of zeros. So now if I want to solve this optimization problem, there are many existing algorithms such as proximal gradient, conditional gradient, a DMM, and so on and so on. And most of them, if not all of them, share the following structure. So starting from some iterate x of 0, so initialization points, I repeat a sequence of steps which are more or less similar for all algorithms. So first, I evaluate the residual error, so what remains to be fitted. Then I evaluate the correlation between the columns of M and my residual. So I try to answer the question how my column can contribute to explain the residual. Then I do some sorting operations, so either X of t or the correlation, or both for some algorithm. And then I apply some update. And my point here is to emphasize that the numerical complexity of each algorithm, I mean, of each step of the iteration, is more or less dominated either by matrix vector operations, so in scaling with the number of columns, so n here, or by the sorting operation, so scaling for the, let's say, in n log of n, where n is still the number of columns of n. Okay. And my second point here is that since we are expecting solutions that are sparse, many operations are, let's say, wasted at each iteration. More precisely, what I want to say is that since we know for sure that X star is sparse, when we are sorting the vector, for instance here, we are sorting entries that will be 0 at the end. So we are wasting, let's say, computational resources. So the same rationale apply when we evaluate the correlation. Since we know that some columns of M will not contribute to reconstructing Y, when we evaluate the correlation at each iteration, we are again wasting some computational resources. So this findings suggests the idea of removing some columns that can be considered as useless, meaning that they will not contribute to the reconstruction. And to be more precise, we can formalize what I just say by removing useless columns. The idea is that if you have the prior knowledge that some entry will be 0 in the solution, so let's say the health entry will be 0 in the solution, you can equivalently, this is not that difficult to show, you can equivalently solve a smaller optimization problem where you remove the columns of M that is, for instance, indexed by L. So you end up by solving another slope problem, a smaller one, that involves a variable of a smaller dimension. And then when you want to move to the solution of the initial slope problem, you just have to put 0 where they are 0 and to put the solution of the smallest optimization problem for the corresponding entries. So the idea here is that if you have access to this prior knowledge, you can solve a lower dimensional problem, which may enjoy many desirable properties. So first, since it is of a smaller dimension, you will, let's say, you will need less computational resources to reach a prescribed accuracy criterion. And second, the conditioning of the optimization problem, so let's say the difficulty of the optimization problem, may be improved, meaning that for the same computational budget, you may reach a better accuracy. Okay, and if you further need to be convinced about what I just say, consider, let's say, a small experiment where I have generated a slope problem. So let's do not focus on the experimental setup. And here on the plot, on the figure, I have represented the computational resources needed to reach a prescribed accuracy criteria. So here I have used the duality gap, but let's forget about it. If you are familiar with convex optimization, you can know that I have used the duality gap. And here the blue curve represents a vanilla algorithm. So here it is the proximal gradient. And the orange curve represents the same algorithm where I have used the knowledge of the position of all the 0. And as you can see, at the beginning of the algorithm, we start with the same accuracy because we use the same initialization point. However, for the algorithm using the prior knowledge, you can see that you can win on this experimental setup up to 1 or 2 order of magnitude in computational resources to reach a prescribed accuracy. Okay, so this leads us to, let's say, present the contribution of our work. The idea of our work is to propose a set of tests that will be coined safe screening tests to detect, so dynamically, so as the algorithm run, the zero in the solution of the slope problem, and to exploit them in the algorithm. So I want to insist on the fact that we call the test safe because whenever an entry passes the test, we are guaranteed that it corresponds to a zero. So it is not a heuristic. And I also want to insist on the fact that we have some constraints. We want that the tests are computationally cheap because at the end we want to accelerate the algorithm. Okay. And I also would like to emphasize that our contribution leverage the notion of safe screening that has been extensively studied for the lasso problem since the seminal paper of Laurent El-Gaoui a few years ago. But none of this work extends to the slope problem because of the, let's say, the sorting operation. Okay. So to understand what will be the crux of our screening test, I want you to consider the following ideal situation where we have already found X star. So I say that is ideal because when you have already found X star, you know where are the zero. But let's forget about it. And let us also assume that the solution X star is K sparse. So obviously K is smaller than N. Okay. So let us denote R star, the corresponding residual at optimality. And let us study if we can further decrease the cost function by activating some zero entry in X star. So I take an entry, the health one, and I want to activate it and see if I can decrease the residual. I can decrease the cost function I want to minimize. So if I can I can further decrease P. So if you do the math, you see that whenever the new entry is sufficiently small, you can rewrite the cost function using the residual at optimality plus the new entry I want to activate. You can make the slope regularization at optimality appear plus the new non-zero entry. So this is true whenever XL is sufficiently small. And if you continue the calculation, you can factorize all entries corresponding to the residual and the solution. So you can gather it in a P of X star. And then you end up with a constant term plus a kind of degree 2 polynomial. So this is not exactly a degree 2 polynomial because there is an absolute value, but anyway. Okay. So now, if I want to decrease, if I want to be lower, to find a X that is lower than P of X star, I need to make this, the right-hand side of my second line, lower than zero, strictly lower than zero. And if you study the behavior of this polynomial, you end up with the conclusion that whenever this guy is sufficiently small compared to the slope weight gamma k plus 1, you are tempted to conclude that whenever this condition is fulfilled, then the entry necessarily corresponds to a zero. So as we will see later, this rule is in fact true, but it is a heuristic up to now, and we will see how to formalize it properly. So now the idea in the remaining slide will be to design such a screening rule, so which share a similar structure as this one, that is able to identify zero when X star, the solution of the slope problem, has not been identified yet, and that is obviously mathematically grounded. Okay. So without a surprise, the suitable framework to design such a rule is to use the duality in optimization, and in particular in convex optimization. So in our work, we have used the Fenchel-Rockefeller duality. Sorry. So the rationale is as follows. So we have a convex optimization problem. So it is a minimization problem. So it is my slope regression problem. And to that problem, I can associate a dual optimization problem. So this is a maximum optimization problem with respect to a variable that has the same dimension as my residual. and has to satisfy some constraints that are hidden for now. I will elaborate on it in a few seconds. And I know for sure that at optimality, some quantity that I have called duality gap, that is called duality gap at optimization, that is the difference between the cost function of the primal and the cost function of the dual problem, is equal to 0 at optimality. Okay. So it is a kind of measure of convergence of my algorithm. So it is positive when the solution has not been found and 0 otherwise. Okay. So here I say that the dual optimization problem is a maximization problem, but to easier my exposition, I will transform it. So this is totally equivalent into a minimization problem. You will understand later why I have done that. And I was talking previously about constraints, so they appear right now. So to be feasible for the dual problem, a variable R has to satisfy a set of inequality involving obviously the weight of my slope problem and some sorted inner product with the matrix M of my optimization problem. So the constraint look like a bit complicated, so I will not that much elaborate on it. What I propose is to provide a geometric interpretation of what this constraint means. So I have written again in brown the constraint. So what you can see is that it is in fact a set of n constraints indexed by q. Okay. And if, for instance, you take q equal 1, you have that the inequality is satisfied whenever this inequality is satisfied for all value of j. Okay. So now I can provide a geometric interpretation of it. So the inequality, the inequality involving one column of M that was shown previously correspond to defining a half hyperplane. So to be feasible with respect to my dual problem, the variable R need to be in the blue alpha hyperplane. Then I can do the same with the opposite of M, so the opposite hyperplane, because there were an absolute value in the definition. And to be feasible, the variable R need to be in the intersection of all the two hyperplanes. So now I can repeat this process for all columns, and I end up with some kind of polytope. Okay, so it is represented in blue. Then we can continue studying the set of inequalities. So I can take q equal 2, and I end up with a similar set of inequalities involving all the columns, all pair of column mj and mj prime, and two coefficients. So I can repeat the process. So each set of inequalities define again alpha hyperplane, and to be feasible, I can the variable need to be again in the intersection, so it defines a new polytope, and so on and so on. And we can repeat this process for all values of q. Okay, so this was for the definition of the dual feasible set. Now, if I come back to the dual optimization problem, so remember I have transformed it into a minimization problem. In fact, as you can see, the dual optimization problem, so the equivalent one, correspond to finding the orthogonal projection of my observation y onto the dual polytope. So here it corresponds to, in fact, identifying a face of the polytope and projecting y onto that face. Okay, so here it was the face generated by M1, the first column. Okay, but it can be something different. Okay. So this was for the geometric interpretation. Then there is another set of results, and in particular, there is a result that provide a connection between the solution of the primal and the dual problem. And in particular, it tells you that the solution to the dual problem is exactly the residual at optimality. So this motivates the use of the R notation, and it tells you that solving the primal problem corresponds to finding the adequate fit, and solving the dual problem corresponds to basically finding the residual of the fit. Okay, so this is for the first connection, and the second connection is what we call an optimality condition. So if you are familiar with optimization, this is the equivalent of having the gradient equal to 0 at optimality, but here because of the sorting operation, we cannot define a gradient, so we use a notation that is, I mean, a generalization of the gradient that is the subdifferential, but let's do not lose too much time with that. If you use the definition of the subdifferential and you work a little bit the expression, you end up with the following sufficient condition. You have that a couple, if a couple X star and R star is a solution of primal and dual problem, then if the health entry of X star is non-zero, then necessarily you have some kind of equality that is satisfied. And if you have a closer look at this equality, it tells you, in fact, that if the health entry of X star is non-zero, then if I come back to the previous slide, then necessarily I am Y projected onto one of the hyperplane generated by the column M1. So here M1 generates this hyperplane. It also generates this one. And what it tells you is that if X star of L is non-zero, then necessarily R star is on one of the two hyperplanes. Okay, and we can generalize that if I have more columns in my dictionary. Okay, so this is a sufficient condition, and in fact, if I take the contraposition of this result, I end up with, if some kind of condition is satisfied, then necessarily X star will be 0. So this is the rationale. So this is the rationale of our screening test. So we just took the contraposition of the previous result, and it reads as follows: if for all values of Q, the condition that were involved in the sufficient condition from the previous slide is satisfied. So this condition involved the columns of M and R star, the solution to the dual problem, then necessarily it corresponds to a 0 in the solution of the slope problem. Okay, so I insist on the fact that it is not a heuristic. Okay, so if this condition is fulfilled, then necessarily I have identified a 0, and it seems computationally simple to evaluate if I have access to the solution to the dual problem. So we will discuss about it in the next slides. So just to provide some additional notation, so my screening test, so here corresponds to verify a set of strict inequalities. So I will write BQ, the left-hand side of the inequality, and sigma Q, the right-hand side. And if BQ is strictly smaller than sigma Q for all values of Q, then I have identified a 0. Okay. So if I come back to my geometric interpretation, it ends up trying to verify if, for instance, here I take all the hyperplanes generated by M2, so this one and this one. So I have these hyperplanes and these hyperplanes. And if they do not intersect R star, then my screening rule told me that I have identified a 0 in the solution. Okay. The problem here is that most of the time, if not always, identifying R star, the solution to the dual problem, is as difficult as solving the slope problem. So we cannot use this screening rule as it. So this is why I have called it ideal screening rule. And the idea will be to perform the test without using R star, obviously. And to do that, we will leverage the notion of safe region introduced by Elgaoui a few years ago. And in short, what we call a safe region is a region that contains the solution to the dual problem, so that contains R star. So the idea is that identifying such regions is easier than identifying R star. So why we are doing that? Because if we are able to design such a region, then we can design a relaxed test. So instead of verifying that a BQ, so evaluated at R star, is smaller than sigma Q, we just have to check that the inequality is satisfied for all R that belongs to my safe region. And if this is the case, this will be in particular true for R star, because R star belongs to the safe region. And then I can say that my entry, that I have identified a 0 in the solution. Okay. So if I come back again to my geometric interpretation, so I have represented in orange the safe region that contains R star, and here the relaxed screening test correspond to check if the later hyperplane, so represented in black here, intersects the orange region. So here it is not the case. So even if I do not know R star, I can evaluate my test, provided that I can evaluate the maximum value here. So in the general case, evaluating the maximum value is complicated. But today we will focus on a particular family of safe regions, which is a sphere. So that is parameterized by a center and a radius. And in that case, it is not difficult to identify an upper bound, let's say a relevant upper bound of the maximum here, so that I can implement my screening test. So the idea is then to be able to find a center and a radius to design a safe region. And to do that, we can easily extend the notion of safe region that were developed for the lasso problem. And in particular, I will focus on the gap sphere, center at x0 and so of the gap sphere, sorry. So the idea is to take a feasible point for the slope problem, to create a residual, and then to scale it, to make it feasible, and then to use as radius the duality gap evaluated at my primal point and the center of my sphere. So this sphere is known to be safe. It is not, again, a heuristic. And the idea is to use it dynamically. So instead of x0, I will use the iteration of my algorithm. And the idea is that the residual is already evaluated. So scaling it can be done at no additional cost. And the duality gap is also used as a converging criterion. So it is unsure to converge to 0. So if you want a graphical representation of what I have done, so we start with at the first iteration with a residual, and you have a non-relevant safe sphere. But as more as you converge to the solution of the primal and dual problem, the safe sphere narrows, and then you can see that here the test will pass, at least for the second entries. So the last difficulties stands in the evaluation of the maximum problem that appears in the design of the test. And the problem is that we cannot solve exactly this optimization problem. So the strategy that we will advocate is to instead, as I said before, to find an upper bound that is as tight as possible and with low computational cost. So I will try to provide some insight of what we have done. So I see that I have, in fact, 2 minutes left. So I am a bit late. Sorry. So I will be quick on this one. So the first idea is to see that when we want to evaluate the maximum here, we have some inner product between the columns of M and R that appears. And the first idea, which is a bit naive, will be to, instead of maximizing the sum of the inner product, the sorted sum of the inner product, we will maximize the inner product independently. And then we will say that the maximum of the sum of the sorted inner product can be upper bounded by the maximum of the inner product that has been maximized independently. So this is a valid upper bound. The thing is that, so the positive aspect with that is that the inner product involving in the upper bound are evaluated by the MOST algorithm using the safe sphere that we have designed previously. The problem is that since we are doing the maximization in an entry-wise fashion, in some cases, the bound is not tight and will not be tight. So to that, we have proposed a second strategy that is in fact a generalization of the previous one. The idea will be to split the sum of the sorted inner product in two, so the sum of the P first one and the sum of the remaining one, and to use dual feasibility to sort the left-hand side of the sum. So we can say by dual feasibility that we have a tight upper bound of this quantity, or not necessarily a tight upper bound, but something that will be more tight than the previous one. And then we can apply entry-wise minimization for the right-hand side. Okay, and this is true for any value of p. So we end up with a parametric set of inequality. And this led us to our practical screening test. So in a short version of the practical screening test. So at the end, our screening test read as follows. So take an entry L that you want to test if it corresponds to a 0 or not. Then take all values of Q, and for all values of Q, define a value PQ. Define a value PQ, sorry, a value PQ. So PQ that belongs to 1 until Q. And then check if some parametric inequality, so an inequality that is parameterized by PQ, the inner product between M and the center of my sphere, the radius, and the sum of the slope coefficients is verified. And if all inequalities are verified, then the screening test passes and I can remove it in a safe fashion. So I insist on the fact that this can be implemented in practice. So here I do not need the solution of the dual problem. And to pass, I just need to verify a set of n inequalities. So the positive aspect with that is that we have, since it is a parametric inequalities, there is a lot of tests to pass. The negative aspect is that there are n factorial possibilities, possible tests to design, and this is a lot. And another contribution of our paper that I will not have time to discuss today is another algorithm with low computational costs to check all the inequalities at the same time. So for all values of P, for all values of Q, all possible choice of PQ, all values of L, to test all inequalities at the same time. So that we can screen many variables at the same time. And I will come back to my previous example, so my previous toy example. So here in the green curve, I have added the same algorithm where I have included the screening test described previously. So as you can see, at the beginning of the algorithm, there is no difference between the vanilla proximal algorithm and the algorithm that implements screening. However, whenever the duality gap becomes sufficiently small, so remember that the duality gap is involved in the definition of the practical screening test, some entries started to pass the test, and I start to have some computational gain. Okay. So this was a toy example. Maybe I can talk a little bit of let's say some practical results. So here I show some results, so some benchmark. So the idea of the benchmark is to run several algorithms at the same time. So here it is again a vanilla proximal algorithm and some algorithm that implements screening. So the green one is the one implementing all the tests at the same time, and the orange one is the one implementing only one screening test. And the idea is to run all algorithms with the same budget. So the budget is running time here. And when I stop the algorithm whenever a given amount of time has elapsed. Okay. And the idea is to see at the end of when the budget is used, how many instances of slope problem has been solved up to some duality gap. So for instance, here I can see that on this plot that the vanilla algorithm has solved 0 instances up to a duality gap of 10 to the power of -7, whereas let's say 90% of the instances of slope problem has been solved with algorithm using screening. And as you can see, when you use screening, at least when you implement all the tests at the same time, you have computational gains for all possible setups. However, if I only implement one of the tests, so one choice of P instead of testing all possible values of P's, I have some gain here, I have some gains here, but I have no gain here. So if you are interested, I can elaborate on it in the questions, but I will switch to the conclusion. And to conclude, what I want to say is that our method is, let's say, grounded on the self-screening methodology for sparse promoting problem that has been proposed by the Elgaoui. The idea is to, while solving an optimization problem, spot 0 in the solution so that you can safely remove columns of the optimization problem. so that you reduce the computational cost and you improve, let's say, the convergence properties. And the idea is to implement, to provide a plug and play test that you can, let's say, incorporate to any solver. So this is what we have done here. And when you particularize this to the slope problem, the difference with a standard sparse promoting problem is that we had to check a set of inequalities instead of a single one when we want to implement the test. So we end up designing a set of n factorial practical tests. And since we have proposed also a method with low computational cost to implement all the tests at the same time. So this is this is the end of my presentation. So thank you for for listening to me. As mentioned at the beginning, so the preprint is available on arXiv. The code is available on my website here. So for now, we have only implemented a proximal gradient and I mean the accelerated proximal gradient, so ISTA, the equivalent of ISTA and FISTA. But we are convinced that we could incorporate our methodology to most of the solvers, so ADMM, conditional gradients, probably the Newton method presented at the beginning of the conference, and so on and so on.